everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with kind of a different video. We're going to make a card, and I'm using the stamp set by Studio Katia called Floral Trimmings. When I saw this, I absolutely fell in love with it. It was just very unique. It's almost like a background stamp, but it's not. It's got two pieces, so they will fit together, so you could create a background. When I saw this, of course, I immediately thought colored pencils, because again, my medium of choice, all sets. I almost have them all. But I think what this is also good for, of course, would be your watercolors, whether it's watercolor pencils or just watercolors in general. So what I'm doing, I've placed it in my stamp positioner tool. I'm going to stamp each of these, and I'm going to make sure that they're somewhat close but not overly close. I used my VersaFine black ink because then I'm going to use my clear embossing powder, and I'm going to heat set that. Usually, now there were some really small areas here. Usually I do like to stamp in my VersaFine ink no matter what when I'm watercoloring. And then it depends upon the detail of the image whether or not I'm going to use my clear embossing powder. So I grabbed my board. I actually found it. And I'm going to use my painter's tape, and I'm going to tape this down onto the board. There's going to be a lot of water going on to this panel. Sometimes I don't tape it down to a board, but for this one, since there's going to be so much, I wanted to make sure. And yes, I got a hold of the Altenew watercolors. I just saw these colors in so many videos, and I was inspired to purchase. Yes. So, yeah, we are inspired to purchase. Absolutely. So I did a sheet. I always, whenever I get new colors or new medium, I do like to grab a piece of watercolor paper, the paper that I would use most, which is, of course, is my Canson XL watercolor paper, which is what I'm using here. And I do like to make a color chart just so I can see what the colors will look like. So I'm just going to town. The technique that I'm using, again, I am not a watercolorist. I could link to many that are. And of course, the one that I am always watching is Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter. I am just mesmerized by what she does. So the technique that I use a lot when it comes to an image like this is adding the water down into the image and then let the watercolors do the work, where I just drop the color in. If I have too much color or too much water, I will actually go in, I'll use a piece of paper towel, sop some of it up, or I will use my brush to pull up some of that water. I like the difference. I love the variations. I will use more than one color, like in the pink flower towards the top. I used the lightest shade of pink, and then I just dropped in, while it was still wet, the darker shade, so that's going to move on its own. It may not look like anything right now, but again, as you give it time, these colors, as it continues to dry, they will continue to move. Now, these watercolors are not like a Daniel Smith or a QOR or a Mission. These remind me of the Prima confection watercolors. These are wonderful. They do move on their own. Again, I am one, drop it in the water, watch it. I get mesmerized by the way it just moves when you tap it into the water. But these do have a very pastel type feel to them. They are translucent, but not completely. There's what I call a haze. Again, I am not a watercolorist. These are the things that I see and how I use them. So please keep that in mind. I'm probably using incorrect terms and so forth. But again, I'm a dropper. It's what I do. I mean, I do know how to you know, watercolor another way, so to speak. But again, this is the main way, especially when something it's this intricate. Now for this flower here, as we get back to the card and I stop rambling there, I did add not only the light shade of pink to start with, but then I added the shade of brown that comes into that. This watercolor kit, it does have, let's see, what does it have here? 36 colors, and it does come with a water brush. And I really like the case that it comes in too. Plenty of room to mix your colors, and so forth. But the value of colors that this has, very little mixing that I found. Again, I dropped the two colors in so that they mix on their own. So this is kind of a different type of watercolor palette. At least for me it is. You will see me using other watercolors. I am a fan of the QORs or cores, whatever people want to say with that. And I also do have the Mission. But these were a lot of fun to use. I like that the names of the colors in the palette match their inks. I think that's absolutely ingenious. So I like that fact. So if you stamp with one of their inks, it's going to match their colors. So you can say I'm just dropping my colors in. I'm just adding different colors as well. When it comes to the purples, I'm also adding some blues and I'm adding some reds into that to see exactly what this is going to do. I like the variations because I did heat emboss with my clear powder that the colors will kind of skip depending upon the flower. So some petals will be light, some petals will be dark. I like that look as well. But I really do, I mean, again, if you're just starting out, I think this is great. It's a different palette to use. I think it is perfect for the card maker. So, because there is a difference sometimes if you know, yes, we watercolor on our cards. But if you're not looking to be a watercolorist, not to do scenes or anything like that, then I think this would absolutely be perfect for you if you're looking for something simple but has all the colors out there for you. Now there are others out there, and of course, as I get my hands on them, I will definitely show you them as well. But I was really excited. I had to jump right on this because I was really inspired. You can see the key that I made, and they do blend out very well. I let this dry for a while on my board. I don't take it off until it is dry. How do you know that it's dry? I always take the back of my hand and lay it down onto the watercolor, and it should not be cold. If there's water still in there, it will have a cool touch to it, and it'll actually go back to being flat. That's why we tape it down, so that it goes flat. I'm going to use my Fiskars 9-inch trimmer, and I'm just going to trim along the edge so that I can bring this down to a 5.5 by 3 3/4 almost. My card is a standard A2 size card, 4 1/4 by 5.5. Now this one's going to be a side folding card, but I want a border on the top and the bottom, not the sides. So this will go completely from side to side. I am going to use a piece of black cardstock from my stash just to frame this out. And I am going to prop up the watercolor panel raised up off of the black cardstock just to give it some dimension. I am going to use my double-sided foam tape for that. Whenever I do a watercolor panel, I do either like to use my double-sided foam tape or my 2-inch film tape. It's very strong, unforgiving. It is unforgiving tape, but boy, once you have something adhered with that, it is not going to move. So, yeah, lots of cards are crooked because of it, yes. But it's really good. So now that I have that on my panel, I'm going to use my Altenew tape runner, and I'm going to put that down onto my card base. Now I am using a white card base, but I wanted to make sure that this panel is going to cover the entire front. I will be, I did trim a little bit off of the edge just to make sure that it is even with my front panel. So for the sentiment, I grabbed a piece of ivory cardstock, and I'm going to set that in a black strip. I wanted this to stand out off of the card. So I'm just going to do some trimming here just to make it even, because of course I went crooked, but that's what I do. It's a card. Again, we're not Hallmark. We're good. And then I used a die from My Favorite Things, and it's from their Smile set, where you get the big smile and then you get the scripty smile. So I'm going to set that down. It's just one layer, since I kind of propped up the panel underneath, and this will be sitting down onto it. I didn't want to have too many layers coming off. I'm going to trim the white off, because this isn't going to go across. I want it to see that there's a break between the two florals. I'm going to add the S, and then of course we can't forget about the dot. I was really surprised that I didn't lose it. And we're just going to set that in place as well. The pencil that I used to pick up that eye is actually my wax pencil. I use that to lift my sequins. I'm just using my tweezers and just to clean up the glue that's around. Got a little carried away with the glue, so I just wipe along the side just to pick up some of the glue so that I don't have a big glob coming off of the side. The glue that I am using is my art glitter glue. That is one of my favorites. It's either that one or my Nouveau Deluxe that I like a lot. Again, using my tape runner, and I'm just going to center that down onto my panel. I then grabbed my Studio Katia crystal gems. They're called sparkling crystals. And I'm just going to set them, some of them in the center of the flowers, and then around the sentiment. What I like about this pack is, one, you get a lot, and two, you also get different sizes. So you don't have to buy 3 packs of different sizes. They're already in the package. So that's something that I really enjoyed. Yes, I just learned that when I opened it. Yes. But just setting those throughout the card, just to give it a little bit of shine and a little bit of shimmer in the background. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you were thinking about the Altenew watercolors, I hope maybe I helped you make a decision. I do like it. It's definitely one that's a keeper for me, just because it is a different look. It's almost like a chalky look. Again, I know it's not a technical term, but that is a look that I like. I am a fan of the oxides, so that's why I did gravitate to this when I was seeing it. It's what it reminded me of. I hope everyone's having a great day. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's going to be so much more coming, and it's starting soon this week. This is the week that we start all of the wonderful holidays that are coming up. We are just before Thanksgiving. All of the products that I used will be linked down below, and please, if you have a question or a comment, leave that down below as well, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Again, hope everyone's day is going great. Hope you enjoy the week. I hope you enjoy the time with the family and friends that are upcoming in these many days during our holiday season. But remember what's most important, no matter what, and it's great therapy. Always be creative.